Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Decoding Now with me, Meghna Deka. Well, it appears that India's election playbook is now getting rewritten. With every click, every share, every like. At the center of this disruption is Thalapathy Vijay. Whether he gets sworn in or not tomorrow as the Chief Minister, what's undeniable is his landslide popularity and the fan frenzy that he's managed to whip up. So tonight, we are going to decode just how, without massive rallies, no endless speeches, his campaign is now playing out on screens, on streams, and on scrolls on social media. Where the old model relied on huge crowds, big rallies, cadre-based organizations, manifestos which would be voluminous, you have a new digital variant of campaigning. This is next-gen Vijay-style model of campaign. This one runs on holograms, on hashtags, and high-impact content. There are fan clubs which were once just celebrating a star like Vijay, which have turned into a 85,000 political stronghold, a machine, a vote machine for Vijay. The focus has now shifted in a political campaign from ground to the Insta feed. The big question here that we are going to be decoding for you, is this just a digital campaign or the next gen of elections in India? As Vijay says, well, it's game on. So what really is the old model? What really is the new model? Let's break it down for you. Well, in the old model, you had rallies. What's Vijay's model? Vijay has hologram, life-sized virtual avatars, remember, which were built with AI technology, and he was using that in all the rallies. He wasn't even physically present in several rallies, but all the candidates there used life-size AI holograms which were projected across the rallies, and they had Vijay traveling with him via virtual media. Then you had, in the old model, cadre-backed organizations which would be pushing the political parties, but Vijay's model was based on the 85,000 fan clubs. These were called virtual warriors. They were micro-influencers. Remember, not macro-influencers. They didn't have huge followings. But imagine what 85,000 fan clubs would mean in amplifying the model of Vijay. In the old model, you had speeches, long speeches in rallies. But in Vijay's model, there were barely any long speeches that he was making. He had AI content which was being pushed out. There were movie-like trailers and teasers. There were constant messaging that you can see on your screens, constant messages which were being bombarded across social media. That is the new age of getting your word across, your message across. In the old model, you had these voluminous manifestos where they are going to make policy decisions and what the promises are going to be. If we come, we'll give you this or that. But when it came to Vijay's model, there were all these memes. They were very easy to scroll, but memes which had a clear focus on first-time voters. It was micro-managed as to who the target was, which was first-time voters and women. It was specific memes, not just these long manifestos, which is why it was a very targeted model which Vijay employed for his campaigning. In the old model, remember, you have all these Jan Sabhas, which the other political parties were also doing, but Vijay's model was different. He was using WhatsApp, he was using Insta, he was using Twitter. These were the content circulated digitally, which is why the reach was much higher. In a Jan Sabha, even if you're reaching out to 5,000 people, imagine on a WhatsApp group, on Insta, you can literally reach out to millions of followers and stream it live and digitally spread the word. In the old model, you have political chants, of course, but Vijay's model was quite different. There were viral lines. This was sustained engagement. Anyone who was listening to reels, watching reels of Vijay was engaging with him constantly. This is what sustained engagement looked like on social media. But the magic, of course, of Vijay is that he managed to convert this entire fanfare, the fan frenzy that he was whipping up online into actual votes on the ground as well. Well, the Vijay phenomenon, of course, has taken Tamil Nadu by storm. But make no mistake, this wasn't built overnight. It is a party, remember, which is barely 2 years old. Yet it scripted this stunning electoral debut, what many are calling it a blockbuster debut. It crossed the century mark, and that's not momentum. It is meticulous planning behind the roar of the crowds. There lies a campaign that broke away from conventional campaigning. Vijay's campaign was sharper. Vijay's campaign was smarter, and it was deeply calibrated for today's voter. This wasn't just politics as usual, it was strategy at a scale that we haven't seen so far. In fact, let's tell you more. What does it really mean? What did he manage to successfully do? The winning mantra for Vijay. This is where fans were turned into voters. There were fan clubs. I was telling you earlier about 85,000 fan clubs which were converted into the political base for Vijay. That conversion is something that many superstars in the past have failed to do. Of course, some have managed to do. Many of them have failed to do that. Vijay also had controlled visuals. Remember all the pictures which were put out on Vijay's Instagram, on his Twitter handles? Vijay was depicted as a calm leader. There was no hysteria. There was no political rhetoric that he was whipping up around him. They projected him as the cool and calm wind of change. In fact, he avoided interviews. He stuck to the issues. He avoided controversies in long-winded interviews. He was only making reels and putting out his words, not one-on-one questions. In fact, he also avoided traditional media. There was a direct reach through social media. So no television, no radio. Those are traditional media. Then you have newspaper ads. All of this was circumvented. Vijay actually reached out to each and every voter in Tamil Nadu via their phones. Yes, that's right. That is how he managed to pull it off. He ditched traditional media and going all in when it comes to digital media. That was Vijay's playbook. There were no middlemen. There were no filters. Just direct, targeted outreach to the viewers. From viral content to hyper-local messaging. Every touch point was engineered for impact. In fact, at the very heart of it all, you had WhatsApp. That engine which powered persuasion. In fact, there was mobilization. There was momentum being whipped up on WhatsApp itself. In fact, here's how the messaging war was played by Vijay. He had activated about 85,000 existing fan clubs and their WhatsApp groups. He then managed to mobilize about 70,000 booth-level agents who were out on the grounds, mobilizing people, not just on the ground, but on social media as well. In fact, he and his entire social media team, they circulated peer-driven family appeals. What does that mean? Now, this is a very interesting one. Imagine that you have youngsters in your family members who are fans of Vijay. The young fans of Vijay would call up their parents. They would ask their uncles, their aunts, the elder generation that you must vote for Vijay. And there are so many examples which I have personally heard of as well, where people were called up by their younger family members and they were appealing them to vote for change, that the change which Vijay would be bringing in. So this is called peer-driven family appeals. Then also, Vijay and his team, they shared short emotional video reels, which were easy to watch, quick to actually understand, and then very easy to share. It's not easy to share a big, thick book of manifesto. But when you have a reel, you can actually look at it, absorb the message, and reshare. He also managed to neutralize the narratives via threads. There are a lot of threads which were there, but then he managed to ace that game. So as we were discussing, Vijay's digital blitz isn't just an outlier. It's part of a global playbook. Remember, Vijay is not the first one to have done this. Across the continent, leaders are now ditching traditional media and harnessing digital platforms to try and amplify the reach of their campaigns, shape narratives, boost their winning chances. In fact, let's get you some of the examples and you'll understand what I mean. Remember Justin Trudeau, the former Prime Minister of Canada? In 2015 elections, he actually brought out Instagram to campaigning. That was one of the first few times where we could see the use of Instagram. There was selfie diplomacy, Instagram framing, all of that was aced by Justin Trudeau and his team. And there were selfies he was taking with everyone. All of that went viral on social media. He humanized his own image, that he was someone who was relatable to the masses, and this really swung the elections in favor of Justin Trudeau. Then you have Valencia, Nepal's existing prime minister. After the entire Gen Z agitation, he actually came to power. He used TikTok. He used Facebook. for his campaigns. And he managed to win 2/3 of the majority in Nepal's election. He was, of course, buoyed by the huge Gen Z population, which is very active on social media. Then, of course, in Romania, you had Calin Georgescu. In fact, he had campaigned via TikTok algorithms. That's what they were actually analyzing, not surveys on the ground, but TikTok algorithms. He won the first presidential election round in 2024. Then, of course, there are several other examples, such as Bassirou Faye, Senegal's president. He also leveraged WhatsApp. He also leveraged Telegram to ensure that he reached out to the masses. He won from prison while he was inside prison because he had digital agents who were working for him outside in 2024. And one of the most famous examples of the use of social media would, of course, be Zohran Mamdani, the Indian origin mayor of New York City. He campaigned in newsroom style. He won with over 50% of votes. And remember, his reels that he would make on Instagram of Bollywood films and Bollywood songs were the most watched reels ever, which gets you a sense of how he was reaching out to his viewer, how he was engaging with his viewer. It is easier for them to understand what his messaging was. Messaging was clear and it was micro-directed to the people that he was actually reaching out to. So you can see the similarities between what Zohran Mamdani would have done and what a Vijay seems to have done. So let's summarize Vijay's digital blitz. Well, the campaign that powered one of the biggest political upsets and defeated the regional strongmen, DMK, and also kept out of power the AIADMK. The content formula was very simple, as I was telling you. There were reels, there were memes, and there were movie teasers which were being used. Very simple. Keep it clean, do not overpopulate, simply give out information. But it was also a high-frequency post. Repeatedly, daily, digital contents were being dropped again and again, ensuring that there was maximum frequency of engagement. They are also designed for shares and scroll, easy information, easy reels, which those who are fans of Vijay would simply press on a button and it would get shared. It was that simple. It expanded on Vijay's hero image, which he was playing on the films as well. He had one of the biggest releases earlier in the year, the Janagnayagan. He projected himself as that hero who continues to continue the cleanup mission that he was doing in the films, and that is going to translate into what he's going to do in Dravidian politics. Well, that was the message that Tamil Nadu had bought into. Relatable content and the promise of change. That was one of the biggest takeaways. Who are the target groups? Very simple here. First-time voters and women voters, which is why there was very content-specific, audience-specific content which was being pushed out by Vijay and his social media team, which many have said are the real heroes in this game. We don't know if he becomes the chief minister, gets sworn in as the chief minister tomorrow or not, but tonight we are going to hail the next gen of campaigning that Vijay and his team have managed to bring in. Let me go across to our panelists. But before I go to that, some big breaking news which is coming in. Seems to be a bit of an upset for Vijay. AIADMK says they will not be supporting Vijay. That's the big breaking news that's coming in. AIADMK says they are not going to support Vijay. Remember, Edapadi Palanisamy may just have some kind of an internal rebellion on his hands, because now officially it appears that they have said that they are not going to be supporting Vijay. What does it mean for Vijay? He has two options here. One option is to go with the smaller parties like the Congress party and several of the other smaller parties, stitching them together, because remember, he's 10 short of the magic mark of 118. The other alternative that Vijay would have is to break away some MLAs of the AIADMK. Which way is it going to be? Let me go across to Dharni. Dharni, that seems to be a bit of an upset. AIADMK says they're not going to support Vijay. What happened?
Well, right now we are reporting from in front of Edapadi Palaniswamy's residence here in the Greenways Road in Chennai. A meeting went on between EPS and other senior leaders of the party for about 2 hours, and many former ministers such as C.V. Shanmugam, K.P. Munuswamy, Karuppanan, S.P. Velamani, etc. they participated in this meeting, and now senior leader K.P. Munuswamy has just come out of Edapadi Palaniswamy's residence, and he has announced it openly that AIADMK is not going to extend any support to Vijay's Tamilaka Vettu Kalagam. AIADMK is not going to support Vijay's TVK, and he says that he is making this announcement after consultation with Edapadi Palaniswamy, that he is meeting the media and he is making this announcement after consulting with EPS, is what KP Munuswamy just told here at the residence of EPS. So it is very clear, it's plain and simple, AIADMK is not going to extend any support to TVK. The 47 MLAs of AIADMK, they will not be supporting Vijay or his party. But meanwhile, when another question was posed about whether AIADMK was approached by TVK, KP Munuswamy refused to answer to that question. He did not say an yes or a no. When asked if Vijay was trying to approach AIADMK, he refuses to give an answer. He is neither denying it nor accepting it. But the moment here is very crucial, because for almost 2 days now, the speculations were rife that AIADMK might potentially be an alliance partner for TVK.
2 days now, but especially in the morning. Let me bring in Shomit also here. Especially in the morning, there was a lot of reports that Shanmugan and possibly over 30 other MLAs want to support Vijay. Is there going to be any development on that front? Because there were rumors that there may just be a split right down the middle when it comes to AIADMK's 47.
See, Meghna, one thing was, very much clear that C.V. Shanmugam, the leaders were banging on the C.V. Shanmugam to also hold the talks, and because he's a stalwart and he's having very close aides in the TVK, and because of his relations, the leaders wanted him to go ahead and hold the talks. At the same time, also convince EPS. So the leaders who are supporting C.V. Shanmugam, they don't want to break and come out and from the AIADMK and go. Few leaders are there, but most of them, they don't want to come out and go and join the TVK or extend outside support. As of now, most of the MLAs, they wanted to extend the outside support, and they wanted to be in the government. So we'll have to wait and see how things will turn up. But one thing is very much clear that AIADMK leaders, several of the MLAs, they are. Right now, they've extended their support. Initially, even outside support is more than enough for the TVK now, because they'll have to prove on the assembly floor, legislative floor, their numbers should be crossing 170.
So you're saying outside support by the AIADMK still not officially ruled out? We'll have to wait and see, because a lot of MLAs of AIADMK do want to support Vijay. At least that's what the sources are going to have. Thank you so much, Dharini, as well as Shomit. We'll keep coming back to you for more updates, minute by minute, the fastest updates right here on Times Now. But since we are discussing the brand Vijay, let's also discuss the digital campaign behind what really made him the superstar. And I'm not just talking about the box office, I'm talking about the ballot box superstar with 100 par. Chetna Kotak is joining us, the co-founder of Redefined, and also there is Nikhil Chandwani, an author who's going to be joining us. Chetna, I'm going to come across to you. Do you think with the kind of high-octane social media, digital, AI, hologram kind of a campaigning that we've seen with digital, he's changed the game? He's changed the game of campaigning itself in India.
Thanks, Meghna, for having me. And you're absolutely right that because I work in marketing and strategy, and that's what's trained me to spot these patterns. So whether it's a brand campaign or a political campaign, the underlying mechanism is almost the same. So, Vijay's campaign and approach is one such example of what we call in marketing a clear positioning, a clear brand voice, and focused communication. So him as a leader knew what exactly he wants to say, to whom he wants to say it to, and what he wants to make them feel. So when that clarity and authenticity is there in a person's voice, that travels on social media beautifully. So use of memes, use of AI, holographs, reels, what you mentioned. So he knows exactly the audience that he's talking to, the audience that he's targeting. He's finding them where they are present at the most, and he's talking to them in the way that they want to be talked to. So he's changing with the changing time. He's adapting the new ways. See, in marketing 15, 20 years ago, a political campaign was built through television campaigns. It was those massive rallies, outdoor hoarding campaigns, and those were the means of communication and connecting at that time. But today it's completely flipped. A political brand is built through the authentic voice. So you want to have the narrative and the consistency in a voice, and you want to find the audience where they are and talk to them, connect them where they want to be talked to. So there's zero dependence on these traditional gatekeepers. And when 90% of your voters are these 35-year-old young people who are first-time voters or women, so you're winning because your message and your style resonates and with them. They feel it.
So more relatability perhaps. But Chetna, there are also a lot of concerns which are being raised. Earlier, you'd have manifestos. People would go through the manifesto, understand the policy, understand what are the promises being made by a certain party and what ideologically it stands for. Now you have memes. And a lot of them are just easy to scroll. It's doing well, literally, because it's easy to watch. And within 30 seconds, you get the gist of it. And it's easy to share, reshare, and understand. Do you think there are pitfalls of that kind of a model when it comes to campaigning for elections?
Absolutely. So I think the fundamental shift that social media has created is also the shift in the trust. So that is part that people usually underestimate. So traditional media, your televisions, newspaper was more of a one-way communication. It was information that was flowing to you. You consume it, move on. But social media is now more participatory. So you're not just watching, you're sharing, you're reacting, you're discussing in your family group, in your college network, in your friends. So it becomes a part of the communication. So it's less of an information and more of identity. So it changes who you trust, and because now the person is influencing you isn't polished news anchor or a party spokesperson. It's someone who feels like you, a local content creator, a YouTuber. So they're speaking your language also. It's literally, culturally, they're speaking your language. And the real insight that I think gets missed is that social media doesn't convince people. It is just amplifying what already resonates with you.
Okay.
So if your messaging is clear, your identity is authentic, then you're able to amplify that. And it becomes your megaphone, basically, that you don't have to pay for.
It amplifies. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's also a low expense kind of campaigning, and you can cut down. But what you are getting, instead of maybe a couple of channels interviewing you, you actually get about 1 lakh people in your fan clubs who are micro-influencers. They're not even big-time influencers, but micro-influencers which are magnifying your message. Perhaps that's what Gen Next for campaigning is all about. Thank you so much, Chetna, for putting all of that into perspective and explaining for us what campaigns of the future are likely to be looking like. With that note, I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for watching Decoding Now. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, 6:30 p.m. right here on Timestamp.